Good afternoon. There's a third and mercifully final panel this afternoon. And that's to try to keep this as fresh and fun as possible. I think Ambassador Skarstein's last comments were a really nice segue for this third panel, which is one of the big challenges her NGO faces is migrating projects and teams from a state of dependency to sustainability. Our topic this afternoon is going to be social entrepreneurship and impact investing, specifically a view from people in the field, practitioners, out of the office into the crucible. The second topic we'll talk about is hopefully some inspired discussion around perhaps non-obvious ideas, again from the field, about what we can do here together collectively as stakeholders in the civil society, as NGOs, as practitioners, as donors, as social entrepreneurs. My name is Chris FARKAS. I'm the CEO of ACME Labs, a Central European venture capital firm and one of 4 state-accredited technology accelerators here in Hungary. This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. Before we jump in, let me take a brief moment, if I may, to introduce my distinguished panelists this afternoon. Zsazsa DEMETER is the Hungarian country coordinator for Ashoka, the largest network of social entrepreneurs worldwide, with nearly 3,000 Ashoka fellows in 7 countries. Seated to her right is Horváth, NESsT country director for Hungary, responsible for managing the portfolio of social enterprises and furthering NESsT mission in Hungary. Dalma BERKOVICS. Dalma works as a Central European and Business Budapest connector at OuiShare, that's OuiS in French spelling, the global think tank of the collaborative economy, empowering entrepreneurs, researchers, and citizens. And then lastly, on the right is Barnabás, who's a serial entrepreneur based here in Budapest and a social entrepreneur at heart. As Chief Technology Officer of TerraCycle, he worked to help eliminate the very idea of waste through upcycling. And as the CEO and co-founder of Shinrai, he was working to bring financial services to the unbanked and underbanked around the world. Let me begin with our first question. As a venture capitalist, one of the things I over and over hear, which is really dramatic and really quite remarkable, and really I think unique about Hungary and Central Europe, are the pitches. The vast majority of the investment pitches I hear in this region come with a double bottom line. A double bottom line? So in other words, their proposal comes with 2 key measurements, 2 things that they want to propose to me, to my firm, frankly, to this region and to Europe. It is, of course, about market success, about revenue and profit, and all the usual things you'd expect from a financial pitch. But it's also about social impact. That is different. In my experience, in San Francisco or London, you don't hear that very often, except in a trite way, as in, my new $1.99 social media content aggregation smartphone app is going to change the world. Yeah, right. Maybe if you're WhatsApp, it'll change your world. I don't know about the rest of us. But the young people here, and I should say some of these young people, I mean, some of them are well older than me. They really genuinely seem to care. And I think as somebody who's come here pretty much every year of his life since he was a boy, my father was Hungarian, my mother's Spanish, in full disclosure. I grew up in the States, but part of my career has been traveling around and working in 30 countries. You don't hear that. And I'm starting to hear that now here. And I find that encouraging, and I find that even inspiring. And I'm a born finance guy. So let me jump in straight in with some questions. First we'll go to Zsazsa. You know, at Ashoka, as an investor in people, how do you define a social entrepreneur? And what does that mean, more importantly, in practice for your organization?
Hello to everyone. Hope everyone hears me behind as well, because we could not really hear well before. So I'm trying to talk louder. So first of all, Ashoka's definition about social entrepreneurship, because we realized that when we talk about social entrepreneurs, we have very different definitions in different organizations. So Ashoka's definition is a person who is finding a new idea. The new idea is crucial in our organization. So we have to find someone who has this new idea and wants to spread this idea and make it global. And not just spread, let's say, talking about an education-related idea, not just spread in a kindergarten or a little school, but try to enter with this new idea in the whole education system and change the whole system, and then spread this to other countries, to other regions in the world. This is Ashoka's definition about a social entrepreneur. And something that I have to mention is that we invest in people, as you said. So we are selecting one person that we are going to support and basically invest in a person, which means that we are not selecting the organization, we are not selecting a project. We give this stipend directly to one person because we believe that there's every time one key personality who is driving a social change within one organization. So we invest in people.
Thank you. Would you like to add anything anymore? All right. Anna, second question to you. Does that mirror your experiences in NESsT? And if so, how does that translate into your investment decisions and portfolios? So not so much thematically in terms of your mission, but directly into the investments that you make at NESsT and directly into the portfolio that you've built here in Hungary.
So I can actually connect to Zsazsa's approach and view. So I think that we help social entrepreneurs to achieve these goals, the spreading the solution they have found, and to achieve actually a systemic exchange in their community or in their country or even globally. So we invest indirectly into the people, we invest directly into organizations, we invest into social enterprises, which is according to our definition a consciously planned and operated business, so entrepreneurial activity, which major goal is to solve a critical social problem. Of course, there is a wide range of critical social problems, but among them we as NESsT focus according to our strategy to three kind of social programs or social solutions, and these are job creation, so labor inclusion, sustainable income generation for another group of marginalized people who cannot or don't want to enter the labor market, and they would like to generate some kind of income more independently. And the third strategic area of us is the affordable technology, so access to basic services. And in all cases, the final beneficiaries are the kind of marginalized communities, kind of disadvantaged people. And the long-term approach is very important for us. So at first we build, of course, pipelines, so we are seeking continuously the good social enterprise ideas. But then the better one, we invest with a long-term approach, which is, I think, quite unique. So we work with them together for at least 3 years, but in many cases even longer, so 5, 7, or 10 years. Maybe at the first.
Wonderful. Dalma, your work focuses on what you term the collaborative economy, which you describe as a new approach to entrepreneurship. Could you tell us what you mean, and what are the key trends and drivers behind this approach?
First of all, I would like to define what collaborative economy means to OuiShare and how we define it, because I think all of you heard about the sharing economy. We have a lot of different definitions to that, and OuiShare have a definition for the collaborative economy. So first of all, I would like to say that it's nothing new. It's something that existed in the past centuries when people used to share things because they were living in villages, they knew each other, they had a lot of connection with each other. So what is happening now is that we are reinventing this bartering, swapping, and sharing, lending in peer-to-peer networks using online technology. So this is the new part of the whole trend. Why is this happening? So what are the drivers? I think there are different things that are driving this new trend. First of all is the economic downturn. So people are feeling more conscious about saving money or having some extra income and trying to find some intelligent solutions to get that income. Second one is the lack of social connections. So we are kind of living in our world, we don't really know about our neighbors, and people like this feeling, so they want to get more contact with each other. Third one is the environmental concerns, and people have more and more awareness and want to do some more activities to become more sustainable in their own life. So wasting less food, or just buying less stuff that they don't need in their everyday life. And all of these drivers are strengthened with the online technologies. So peer-to-peer technologies where people can get contact with each other, just like in Facebook, but on different platforms. I think that entrepreneurs have a lot of impact in changing the ways how we consume, we produce, and how we finance our activities. You may have heard about Airbnb or Kickstarter or BlaBlaCar, so ride sharing or sharing your flat or crowdfunding your activities. These initiatives are built by these entrepreneurs. And I'm not saying that they are social businesses, because they are just businesses building new consumer trends and reshaping how we think about ourselves and how we get in touch with our local communities. So basically it's an indirect impact, I would say. So people start to have more connections in their local communities, start to build trust with each other. So these have a lot of local impact. Airbnb, for example, is studying it in Paris, in San Francisco, in Barcelona, measuring how much local impact they can generate by using their platforms. And also, for example, Kickstarter a couple of weeks ago announced that they got more than 1 billion funding on their site. It means that people can finance each other using their platform. So it has a lot of positive, and I have to say, indirect impact.
Thank you, Dalma. Barnabás, as someone who's built successful international social enterprises in renewables and most recently financial tech, what role do you see for social businesses, the kind that Dalma's talking about, in the modern economy and civil society, and how important is the profit motive in your view?
Yeah, so if you want to have social impact, it's you don't necessarily have to be a for-profit organization. It really depends, but an awful lot of NGOs are fragile and risky. They depend on donors, and it's in my view, it's way easier. I'm only speaking for myself and friends. Given you have a working business model, you can achieve resilience, and you don't have the fear of donors not showing up in your big yearly fundraiser. It's also hard, but it's hard in another way. You are required to deliver. You have to create products that customers want and pay for, and you have to compete for them every day. It's also much easier to attract capital. That's way easier to build an organization if you have smart money working for you. And in my experience, it's also way easier to attract talent. So good wages and stock options, that's a great thing. But if you have a good mission, that helps a lot. And I'm not thinking of mambo jumbo missions like we strive for customer support excellence, and you know what I'm talking about. If you say we are helping save the planet for our grandchildren, that really helps a lot when you recruit, and it helps keeping talent in house. And but this is not always easy, because the current thinking framework differentiates between impact or profit. You cannot have impact with if you're trying to achieve profits, and there's a weird mindset. So I experience this every day. People telling me you should be this is something good. You shouldn't be trying to achieve profits with it. Yeah. So my question is. Would you rather give your money and let McDonald's rake in billions of profits by destroying your health, or you would rather give it to the nice restaurant, producing super healthy vegan food? Why not let that poor guy buy a nicer house for his family, right? So it's something that we need to. We need to work to, so let me rephrase this. We need to work on showing people that this can be achieved, because if you can make profits and help the planet and help the people, then you're way better off than any other corporations out there. And the only language people understand, or the major language we speak, is economics, and people vote with their wallets. So if I would be a policymaker, just a minor example, I would be taxing. I would create EPR laws that would be taxing products on their fully loaded cost, including everything. And if I would say effective tomorrow, you will have to pay for your product's social and environmental impact. That would really change the landscape, and that's something that corporations understand, and they will have to make profits, including that, and they will have to start thinking in how to create products that are recyclable. Recycling is expensive because we allow landfills and incinerations to be cheap. That's the only reason, and that's the only holdback for recycling and upcycling. So the point is that profit is good and greed is bad.
Nicely said. I think, of course.
Okay, so just a little contribution, and it's a kind of historical experience of NESsT. So NESsT has been operating for 16 years in 2 geographic regions in Central Europe and in Latin America. And at the beginning, the mission of NESsT was to support and improve and develop the NGO sector, and to support NGOs to start their social enterprises so that to become more independent. But actually, approximately 5-6 years ago, we started a pilot project here in Hungary, where we were seeking for-profit social enterprises, and we implemented a development program for them. And actually it was a great success, and we just learned that impact, what matters, impact plus sustainability, and the balance of 2 of them. And since then we have the new definition that independently from the legal format, actually the solution of the critical social problem and the financial sustainability of the business success and the balance between them is our major criteria. And now we work, for example, in Hungary together with 14 social enterprises, and their legal background is very diverse. We have classical NGOs, we have classical for-profit companies, we have non-profit companies, we have social cooperatives, so really the impact and sustainability which matter.
Thank you, Anna. I think what we're getting to is that really the choice between for-profit and non-profit is really not a stark choice. It doesn't need to be. I think there's certainly an attitude change that needs to happen. I think listening to Barnabás and Anna speak, it's becoming increasingly clear to me that entrepreneurs exist on a spectrum between purely sustainability, hopefully, and market-driven success. I don't think that it's black and white anymore. At least the good entrepreneurs, in my view. And it may be anathema to people in their profession, but I don't believe that everything I invest in needs to be the next Facebook. In fact, that the very idea that makes me puke. But I think that you can see, and you do see, and I increasingly see here in the region, entrepreneurs that would consider themselves social entrepreneurs. And I'm not for a moment suggesting that every challenge or every societal problem can be solved with a for-profit motive, but the model is just a choice of tool. What really it's about is, how? How do I achieve that aim? How do I achieve that mission? What are the, what's the toolkit I've got to work with, whether it's the States, UK, or here in Hungary? And I think the smart change makers here, realize that, and I think it's about the rest, it's incumbent upon the rest of us as donors, NGOs, managers, and people trying to support these individuals and organizations to recognize that there is this subtle shift, and it's an important one. Okay. Thank you, Zsazsa.
That's actually an interesting topic, saying that social entrepreneurs vary on a large scale of different kind of people, and it's a very interesting challenge at Ashoka, especially because we are selecting the people who have this extreme drive to change something. Usually they experience something in their lives that changed something, and then they see only one objective is to change that thing. I'm talking about maybe alcoholism or drug addiction. Someone is changing his life and helping other people and building whole organizations and changing whole systems around that. And those people have huge challenges to think sustainable and to think business-oriented. And that's what we try now at Ashoka, to provide those people this knowledge that they basically don't have. They are not interested in business, they are not really interested in generating money. They just want to save people and to change the world in a good way. So what Ashoka does is selecting those people and matching them with others coming from the business sector, creating a kind of a mentorship and providing them with the tools so that they try to think, that at least they try to think a little bit more sustainable and more business oriented. But it's very tough because we realize that we try to match them, but those people will never become one or the other. It's difficult to find the right balance.
Well said, Zsazsa. I think, please.
Yes, just one thought. So, I have the same experience from the other side. So I meet mostly entrepreneurs, and there's this really weird mindset I was talking about, that you either do business or you do something good, and it's very hard to change this mindset. So entrepreneurs are afraid of so they visualize root cause people as hippies dancing out in the forest or whatever, and it's a really weird thing. And if you can show with positive examples and well-run companies that you can help the people, you can help the planet, and making good profits, then that's what really will make people change. That will show entrepreneurs they can have a good cause without growing hair, and that will and that will also show people wanting to make change but not interested in business. That if you learn a few new things and you get outside of your comfort zone, you can achieve great things. And by mixing the two, I think that's the key, and trying to bring these people together and show positive examples.
Maybe one short comment from our own experiences. So actually, I think it's much easier to change the mindset of the entrepreneurs to make also some good than to change the mindset of NGO people to think a bit more business-like. But it's also not impossible, so we have great successes. But actually, it was one of the reasons that we included quite many for-profit social enterprises, that it was easier to incorporate the social impact point of view into the existing business than to incorporate the business view into the existing mission-driven NGO.
Thank you. One example I think you could just take right now from listening today, sitting through the various panels and talks today. What I heard over and over again was a question of legitimacy and transparency being absolutely essential to seeing the nonprofit sector functioning as a complementary but independent third leg. Laszlo mentioned Charity Navigator in the States, which is basically again using a finance analogy, it's like Morningstar for mutual funds. It's basically a standard way to benchmark one nonprofit initiative or one NGO or one charity against one another in terms of things that matter: management, impact, transparency, accountability. The things that we've been talking about here at a very high level. They're doing in practice in the US. And Laszlo also mentioned that one of the biggest challenges of that, of doing something similar here in Central Europe or Europe even, is the tax reporting that is filed and that is public is complicated. It doesn't particularly lend itself to a measure of the transparency necessarily or the impact that a particular organization is doing. So, listening to that and listening to Dr. Tillman in the beginning, I started putting kind of two and two together because that's what I do. I believe that you could have a charity navigator-like system here in Central Europe. What would it take? It would take a tech entrepreneur's kind of mindset in building what is effectively a very, very simple database of a problem. It would take people to help populate that. So why not borrow from the Brazilian idea of using junior public accountants volunteering a certain amount of their time to help standardize and gently audit the financials that were put forward. Then what you have is you have the chicken and egg problem. How do I populate something like this and how do I get people to use it? There are a number of very large foundations in this room who invest in social entrepreneurs and quite frankly, into other NGOs. Why not go 2, 3, 4, 5 of those of you in the room and say, would you earmark, say, 100,000 euros, and 100,000 euros you will only invest in NGOs or projects that are on this site, that have gone through this vetting. So now you've, I think, solved one part of the chicken and egg problem. How do you go and then get content? This is just a classic social media problem. It's a tech problem. It's a business problem. But it lends itself to here. Well, there's a number of organizations here, at this table, that invest in a lot of social entrepreneurs and invest in a tremendous number of projects. If you would like access to those 3, 4, 5 large NGOs who are investing in smaller projects and NGOs here in this country, you've got to go through this process. So then what you have is you have the final leg, who's going to volunteer the time? Well, between Laszlo and I think, and Peter earlier at PwC, I think we can line up a few junior accountants who'd like to volunteer some of their free time to do something like this on a pro bono basis. And now you've got something of a social media site to launch. It's a community play for a venture capitalist. Classic community play. Except the only difference here is the community is this country and the stakeholders here in this room. So I think once again, here's a problem. That you paraphrase Barnabás, who's the barefoot dancing in the forest kind of thing. Well, no, you can take a very practical business model that we see all the time in the real world, apply it to this problem, and solve for it. And the people in this room have the ability to do that. So this is not an abstract thing. This is not something that we need to go and ask someone's permission for. We can just do it. Just like that young 20-something-year-old kid in Silicon Valley starting that social media site. So just an idea. By the way, if you are interested in getting involved in something like that, I'm not just talking about it. Coming away from this meeting, I'm inspired to actually do something about it. So get in touch with either Laszlo or me through AmCham, and let me know. We're going to do something about that problem. Second topic, then we'll get to questions. So, kind of following on that, maybe that's a segue into the second topic, which is actionable recommendations and hopefully some ideas from our distinguished panel here that are perhaps non-obvious and perhaps not things that we've already spoken about in terms of policy recommendations and best practice. As an American in the States, you often hear some form of the biggest problems for NGOs being, how do I break past apathy? How do I break past the noise? How do I demonstrably demonstrate impact? And how do I maximize the amount of my donor funds that go directly to supporting my organization's mission? Not to me as a manager, not to overhead, not to raising more money, but what percentage of the money that a donor gives, cents to the euro, actually goes to the person that I'm trying to help, or the people that I'm trying to help, or the organization I'm trying to help. What I've heard today is that Hungarian NGOs, Central European NGOs, to speak more broadly, have a couple of additional problems. One is they have the challenge of legitimacy. For me, this is an entirely foreign concept, where, much like our friends in Norway, you take for granted that NGOs, social entrepreneurs, charities, people in this room are a fundamental complement to a functioning civil society. How do we help with legitimacy? And then the other thing that I hear over and over again, particularly when we talked about the charity and sustainability thing earlier in the prior panel, is how do we support social entrepreneurs, NGOs, charities, and just the individual out there trying to do something in his community, in his neighborhood, or her community, or her neighborhood. And it's clear to me that social entrepreneurs have the same needs as business entrepreneurs. They need access to the same domestic and foreign networks. They need access to the same kind of funding. Maybe a different choice, maybe a different source, but the same basic idea. They need access to best practice. We talked a lot about that here today, and hopefully we disseminate this information in a meaningful, actionable way to these people. And they need the infrastructure. They need support from people like us here in this room. So with that, first question, Zsazsa. Could you share with us one or two specific examples of real challenges facing Ashoka social entrepreneurs here in this country and in this region?
Before sharing the challenges, I have to share some information about Ashoka and Ashoka's role and path here in the region, and especially in Hungary. So, as you know, Ashoka is supporting directly people and selecting fellows. And it's something very exclusive, so it means that we select one person per 10 million in a year, which is a huge selection, an international selection. And as I mentioned, very exclusive, so those selected people will receive a 3-year stipend. And then their whole life, they become Ashoka Fellows, and they get different kind of support from Ashoka and network and many things. So Ashoka in Hungary was selecting fellows between 1995 and 2003, very actively, even more than one fellow per 10 million a year, which was quite unusual. But at that time, we had so many new ideas to change Hungary, and so many opportunities for grants actually. So people took this opportunity and had many new ideas and created different organizations, foundations, and pushed through their ideas till a certain point. With the crisis and many other changes coming from the government, these organizations are facing a lot of challenges because the mindset has totally changed, and they have to change as well. They have to think more business-oriented and more think more sustainable oriented. And I think this is one of the main challenge of Ashoka to help and to support these extremely valuable Ashoka fellows who are always running through, pushing through their new ideas, to not to abandon and not to stop their activities, but really to change their mindset and think more business. And I think this is our biggest challenge now in Hungary, and I can say that it's the same situation for other countries in the region. Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Poland are facing the same thing.
Thank you, Zsazsa. Anna, based on your experiences at NESsT, what are the 1 to 3 actionable best practices and policy recommendations you give to the group?
Yes, so maybe at first also from my side some background and let's say impact information on how we have been working the last 16, 17 years. So we actually work together with organizations on at the beginning at 2 levels and recently at 3 levels. So the first level is the so-called planning stage, which is a kind of competition of ideas, social entrepreneurship ideas. The best ideas are selected, and we support these organizations to prepare a business plan, and the best business plans are actually invited into the next stage, which is the incubation stage. And in the incubation, we work together for 3 to 7 years with the social enterprises. And recently, we already have developed organizations which has scaling opportunity. Scaling, we always examine from the point of view of the social impact. So if there is a way to replicate the model and to spread the social impact geographically. Of course, in most of the cases, there is a condition behind that, the business model, the business part is also scalable. And on that way, we already work together with approximately 5,000 organizations within the last 17 years. And we work together very closely, so in incubation stage with more than 100. And based on this empirical experience, supported also by some dedicated researches, we actually have quite many information what are the challenges and what are the needs of the social enterprise sector in emerging market countries, let's say, so in Central Eastern Europe and in Latin America. We also published these learnings last year in a book with the title No Free Ride, which means that all the stakeholders have to contribute so that to strengthen this sector in our countries, and all the stakeholders have to take some risks. So it's sorry, there is no free ride. And actually the major learnings, the major needs we learned and we try to answer to, but of course one non-profit organization is not enough to solve the whole problem, is the importance of the early stage support. So we see that in all countries it is very difficult to implement an idea and there is actually no supportive environment for it. The long-term approach, what we also do in the practice. So usually these organizations with social enterprises need really years so that to consolidate and to prove the business model and be ready for scaling in optimal cases. The support should be complex and balanced between the capacity building support, kind of access to social capital support, and of course the financial support. And within the financial support sector, we should have availability to diverse kind of financing tools. In the early stage, of course, grants are key. So in most of the cases, without grants, the organizations cannot start. But later on, also other kind of soft financing tools could work. And from that point of view, I was actually surprising that the double bottom line argument is more common in all regions than in San Francisco. So I'm really curious what is the reason. Because from the reply side, I don't see it, so from the reply of the financing sector. And of course, the sector needs good and efficient intermediary organizations who are able to provide with this balanced support of capacity building, financial and social capital access, but who are also able to build a sector, share best practices, and demonstrate the effectiveness of the whole concept.
Thank you. I think, listening to you, before we get to the demand side, actually with the supply side, and Dalma, I think, can speak to the demand side. I think what was really interesting is you talked about your organization and the work that it does, is I could have substituted NGO or social entrepreneur for a life sciences investment. There's so much incredible life sciences research is coming out of Hungary, but they have every single one of the exact same problems of the social entrepreneurs that you just described. They have the exact same problems, and we're trying, to the extent that we can, trying to do something for them. And they also have the exact same challenge that it takes a long time to bring a successful biotech or life sciences invention or technology to the market. And well, anyways, it's incredible parallels. Thank you, Dalma. Coming to you. Besides, in the last panel we heard from some corporate, some large corporations that support NGOs and charities and the kind of efforts that we're talking about here today. Besides just donating money, what are the kinds of things that they could really be doing differently? Maybe not just generally, but specifically here in the region in review.
I think first of all, these corporations should not consider themselves as a donor, but more a partner or long-term, in a long-term relationship. So not just giving the money and then moving away and then, okay, we are done here. I think it's very important it's very important first step to understand. And as we just talked about the lack of business mindset in NGOs and social entrepreneurs, I think the biggest added value that corporations could give to NGOs and to social entrepreneurs is the professional side of their vision, their business vision through volunteering, for example. So working with them, giving networks, trying to follow up with their project, be there with them. It can be just a workshop, it can be some more. It can be consulting, pro bono, for example. Just first up, not just keep the money and move away. I think this is very, very important. Second one, which is more linked to what I'm doing about the collaborative economy. I've seen some very good examples of crowdfunding, partnering between companies and social businesses. So how it works? Actually, companies can build these crowdfunding platforms where social businesses can apply. They can just write down a project, what they want to achieve, how they want to achieve it, how much money they need, and then the companies can use either their employees or their customers to get funding for these projects. And it's more than giving money. I think it's very important to underline. It's not just, you just give the money. No, because you will get something back. You will get involved in the project. And I think this is a very good way for corporations that they can embed it into the CSR activities. So I haven't seen it in Central Europe for now, but I think this would be a very good step forward.
It's about getting past the press release and doing something more. Final question before we open it up to the floor. This one's for Barnabás. How do we make more of you, man? Seriously. What's the one thing that, in your view, government and NGOs, people in this room, could do to support social entrepreneurs like yourself, and perhaps equally importantly, encourage others to follow?
You've talked about how to help NGO people get more involved in the business side, and so I'd like to talk a bit about how to get entrepreneurs getting involved into the change-making side. So entrepreneurs, they usually care and want to make change, but they think so their mechanics, the brain, it's all around economics, and you have to show them So this is my takeaway for NGOs. You have to show entrepreneurs how the economics of social impact works. You have to show them how they can start thinking in their triple bottom line, and you can start to train them, because usually, I mean, it always turns out that if you start to think in a triple bottom line, you start to become way more profitable, which you can reinvest to grow, and that's very important. And we do not teach this. I mean, it starts in the kindergarten, but we do not even teach this at the university level. So, first we need to nurture entrepreneurship, obviously, and we need to show that making change could be way more profitable if you think more. If you start to count in all the so if you have a framework for counting impact and monetizing and having numbers, and so for policymakers, first there's lots of legacy policy which is so broadly written and is changing so slowly that there's this incentive for many aspects of a social business, and I think the most important here is to keep us in the loop. So we have limited resources, we have nearly zero lobbying power, but we are practically we are the most involved. We should be the most involved in it, and we also may have a few good ideas that you'd really like. So I think that's the most important.
Thank you, Barnabás. And with that, we'll open it up to questions on the floor.
Thank you again. I'm all for social enterprise, to start with that, but I'd like to play a bit the devil's advocate, if I can. Because social enterprise, I mean, I heard this buzzword over the last couple of years thousands of times, and it is portrayed as the savior all the way out for the NGO sector or the civil sector from the present crisis, and the way to make up for the loss of, let's say, traditional sources. It may be true. However, I think social enterprise could be available only for a part of the civil sector and probably a minority of the civil sector. So what about those NGOs that are working along missions and with target groups and target areas where there is simply no buying power? How can they develop income-generating services or products when there would be nobody who is able to buy it? And that, I think, in Hungary concerns the majority of NGOs. On the other hand, along the causes, okay, let's say that those target groups that these NGOs work with, for example, marginalized groups, they should themselves start up something and form their own enterprises. Actually, we see from our side a shift in thinking towards this. Many of the grant applications that now come to the EE Norway grants concern starting up local self-reliance projects, as we call them, producing vegetables locally or recycled heating materials, whatever. But they come to them for a Norwegian money. So where are those entrepreneurs helping the marginalized Roma communities in northern Hungary to start up their enterprises which could change their lives? That's my question.
Thank you. It's an excellent one. One is you take the charity navigator thing we were talking about earlier. How do you make that sustainable? You know, it's basically community, right? But one of the interesting wrinkles that I heard today is that 1% of, the 4 out of 10 Hungarians only opt to do this 1% of their tax return to allocate, a certain amount of portion of their tax receipts, government's tax receipts to charity. And one of the interesting things, if you set up that charity navigator not as a for-profit, but as a non-profit in itself, can receive the funds to enable it to be sustainable. So it's not about asking somebody to buy something, sell something. You can use the mechanism itself intelligently to achieve, I think, the goal that we heard today earlier. A second example, a bigger picture thing. Early last year, McKinsey put out a study about infrastructure. Okay, infrastructure. And there were two really interesting things that, for me that came away from that big, massive thing. There was one chart, and it said, of the critical things for a functioning economy and society, where is the next 20 years worth of infrastructure reinvestment going to be required? Is it going to be in roads? Is it going to be in airports, rail? All the obvious things, right? No. Water and wastewater recycling. Really, really boring, really, really unobvious. What's the investment that McKinsey expects is going to be required to maintain the current level of available water for the current population? So not growth, not for more people, not for increased demand, but the current level that we have worldwide. $40 trillion. That's trillion with a T over the next 20 years. So when a kid comes to me and pitches me a $5,000 iPhone app, I say, what's up? Let's get real. Let's talk about the big problems in this world. And when you think about wastewater infrastructure, all the stuff that's going into right now, innovation around, I just read an article yesterday about how you turn pee, urine, and power light bulbs with it. Brilliant. Great. We need more stuff like that, I think. And then I'll just finish quickly by saying that not for a moment would I suggest that for-profit model or social entrepreneurship is going to be the solution to everything. But I would disagree humbly that it's more than a minority of projects or a minority of needs or demands. And some of the big issues that are facing our, not just Hungary, but our world today, a good chunk of them, I think, lend themselves to the kind of solutions that we're talking about today here on this panel. So over to you guys.
So I would quickly answer the question. So maybe I can mention now the scarves of Zsazsa and myself, which are very similar. And both of them were produced, actually the embroidery, so the motif was produced in very poor village called Tar by very poor women. And the scarves actually are quite expensive and were bought by middle class women in Budapest. So the beneficiary, though it's a for-profit social enterprise actually, whose product is this, but it could work also for NGOs, so the beneficiary and the market shouldn't be the same. So actually, in most of the cases, it should be different. So a more purchasing power market should buy the products, and this income or profit should go back to the marginalized community. So it is my first remark. The second is that it's obvious that social enterprise is not a solution for all of the NGOs. I agree that it's more for the minority of the NGOs, but it could be very efficient in particular cases. We have actually a long list in the case of in the case of conditions, the NGO shouldn't start with a social enterprise. So it's of course an investment of capacity of resources, and if they don't have it at the first time, it just takes time and money, and they could get into trouble. And in general, I don't think that social enterprise is a solution for every social issue, but for particular social issues, it's a very effective and proven concept.
So I totally agree with you. So social business is not right for every cause, but I am sure it's right for way more than we may think. So usually it turns out, I'm saying this as an entrepreneur, so if you cannot generate revenue from your idea, then you haven't think hard enough. So I am happy to sit down with anyone and brainstorm and see if there's any revenue generation. And so, for example, your example with Roma people, you don't necessarily have to generate revenue from the people you're helping. So the greatest example is what we do with TerraCycle is so we make traditionally non-recyclable waste recyclable. Everything is recyclable. It's just that it's not worth it. And so recycling a dirty diaper, that can be done, sure, but it's really expensive. So you have to put all the dirt. First, you have to collect them on a national level. That's pretty hard because you know, FedEx and USPS and Hungarian post office, whoever, they may not necessarily like to transport your dirty diapers. But it's solvable. You can get passed through. Then you have to put it in a big container, irradiate it with gamma rays, then separate into organic waste and 3 different types of plastic. And in the end, you get a plastic that's worth 2 cents on a dollar compared to what it takes to recycle it. But it turns out we recycle tons of dirty diapers, and it's not households who pay for it. It's not the babies. It's Haggis who pays for it because they care and they allocate part of their budget to TerraCycle to solve their waste. They think of the entire product life cycle. They think of the full cost of their product, and even though recycling those diapers costs way more than producing it, they still spend money on it. And it turns out that people love it, and they prefer to turn to Haggis instead of Pampers because Haggis is fully recyclable. So if you think hard enough, there's usually way more ways to generate revenue, and not necessarily from the area you're helping.
Thank you, Barnabás. Final question?
I would like to address the question to you. Basically, one of the best I have ever seen in my life, social entrepreneurship, is from the great state of constitution called Adopt a Spot, where the citizens are taking care of their own community, charging keeping clean and in order. You mentioned this double bottom San Francisco system. Entrepreneur could be non-profit or profit. In the States, the NGO could be only non-profit, and asking the IRS for special registration by exempt at state and federal level. Is this the case on this side of the Atlantic too?
Thank you for the question. It's an excellent one. I think the point the panel was trying to make, I was going to suggest, is that the legal entity, the legal form, is not what drives what we're trying to do here. The mission drives the legal form you choose. Legal form, for-profit, non-profit, just me by myself and my neighbors. It's about the mission. So I think that the legal form, let me answer this in a Hungarian context. I see an awful lot of young entrepreneurs coming to me pitching their first-time business, and they're way too proud that they managed to accomplish setting up a company in this country. Now I know how hard it is to set up a company in this country and how expensive it is. But it's not about the company. It's about your customers or the people you're trying to serve. People first, product second, company third, maybe. So whether you're setting up a legal entity, how you set it up, what kind, you have to do that at a certain point, I think, in your development. Because a lot of what I heard today was, how do you support a large NGO? I'm interested in saying, how do I support a lone individual who wants to get started and help the Roma community in Zsazsa? I'm interested in helping that person build their organization, for-profit or non-profit, like a tech startup. You know, when you have more money, you can do more things. And certainly when you have more money, you have greater responsibilities, you know, from the kind of policy recommendations we talked about earlier, in terms of, you know, trustees and audits and the rest of these things. What I'm really interested in as an outsider, as a guest here, as I live over in Buda, and there are lots of little kind of patches of dirt, you know, with some scruffy trees and some scruffy bushes. I'm fortunate in my life that I live in a nice neighborhood. Those things are, nobody does anything about those. If this were New York, Manhattan, there would be a Friends of the Park neighborhood association set up. Everybody throws in what they can, €1, €100, whatever it is. And on a given Saturday, you know, when it's sunny out, somebody bakes some cookies, somebody brings a case of beer, and we go plant some flowers and some bushes. I don't see this happening in Hungary. Okay, enough with complaining. I think that people, us, who are somewhat privileged in certain ways, should take the initiative to do something about it in your own neighborhood. I'm going to do that as soon as this weather sticks around in my neighborhood. And I suggest that, you know, everybody in this room do the same in their neighborhood if there is that patch of dirt, and do something about it. And I think, you know, little things like that change neighborhoods. And if you can change neighborhoods, you can change a community, you can change a nation. Thank you.